Here's the deal. If you can't get a deal on your next real estate investment, you're gonna fail as a house flipper or a real estate investor. And most people simply can't find good deals because they're looking in the wrong place. And what ends up happening is you overpay or you don't get started at all. Now, it all comes down to a simple formula. So I'm going to show you what it means to get a good deal and then the 3 strategies for finding a truly great deal. Now, when I first started out, I bought nothing but subpar deals, and I always wondered why I was never making it work on the back end, never making money. But after doing this for over a decade, I figured out 3 ways to get great deals. Now, you got to understand the formula for house flippers or real estate investors. Basically, your sales price, what you're going to sell the property for, minus your acquisition price, what you purchased the property for, plus the rehab costs, the construction costs, plus other costs like insurance, taxes, real estate fees, title fees, closing costs. All of those together, subtracted from your sales price, equals your profit. It's really that simple. But here's the thing, is that your renovation costs, no matter what the gurus might tell you, you can't really plan that out to perfection from the start. There are going to be things that come up. Trust me, seriously, 10 years of being a contractor myself and doing house flips, even more than that now, I know that things come up that are surprising. Things like you open up the walls and you find something that you didn't expect to. A contractor runs off the site, then you got to get somebody else to come in and the prices end up going up. Codes enforcement comes out with a new code that they're enforcing in your hometown, and you have to deal with that, and you didn't expect to deal with it on the front end. That's just a few of the many things that come up that make it really hard to predict with perfection what the renovation costs will be. And then you have other costs. And maybe you can, after a few times, figure out every single one of those other costs and plan them out perfectly. But I guarantee you won't on the very first one. So these are hard to figure from the start. They're probably going to be variable. You can at least set a budget for it. Now, the sales price, sure, you're going to get comps from your real estate agent. You probably know the market well enough to have an idea of what it sells for, but none of us control the market. So you never know what's going to happen. That's an uncontrollable factor. Once again, you can get in the ballpark. So here, the acquisition price, that is the one thing that you have absolute control over. You get to say whether you buy a property or not. And so what I want to do when I'm flipping a house or buying a real estate investment, I want to set myself up with the biggest possible head start that I can. And that means that I want to get a great deal on the front end. Now, does that mean that whoever sold it to you has to get a bad deal? Not necessarily, if you know how to look. Now, all of this equals your profit. Of course, you want your profit to be as big as possible. By the way, you might be asking, if you watch some of my other videos, what is this sweet headset on my head? Well, it's a piece of Romex wire that I folded up and made into a headset because I thought the audio on these things wasn't good enough. Now, to really understand how to control acquisition price, you need to understand supply and demand. The smaller the demand, the better the pricing you're going to get. All right, let me explain this just a second. The supply is a house that you want to buy. That's not going up, not going down. It's the house that you want to buy. The demand for it is the amount of people that want to buy that house. That you can control in some ways, and that's really what we're talking about today. And to help you understand this, all of us have bought concert tickets before. So among my 3 strategies, I'm going to go through the different ways you might buy tickets. First one being on Ticketmaster. This is the most popular way to buy tickets for your next Taylor Swift concert. And the issue is that everybody puts their tickets on Ticketmaster to sell, and everybody goes to buy on Ticketmaster because it's really easy to buy on Ticketmaster. I get on my computer right now and figure out exactly what I have to pay for those Taylor Swift tickets. That means that the demand, i.e. the market size, the amount of people who want to go buy those tickets, is as high as can be for the supply of those Taylor Swift tickets. That is just like buying your house on the MLS. For you, those of you that don't know, that's the multiple listing service. That's basically if you're buying through or from a real estate agent, you're buying from the MLS. Also, people just call it the market. I also like to couple this up with things like Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com, some of the other big names out there. Basically, if somebody wants to sell their house, they put it on those big markets for you to go look from the safety of your own home. And everybody's doing it. So if everybody is doing it, that means that demand is super high. Therefore, the price is going to be high as possible. Not only that, but real estate agents, they don't get listing agreements with people who want to sell their house by saying, hey, I think that if we take that $200,000 house and list it at 180, I think it'll sell really quickly. Yeah, right. You wouldn't take that deal. So instead they say, hey, I bet we could sell that house for 220 so they can get you to sign the listing agreement. Therefore, from the start, generally houses are overpriced when they're on the market. They're not at market price. Maybe they're a little over market price, but because the demand is so high, sometimes they'll find a buyer because people will be competing against each other. However, there are 3 strategies that you can use to actually find deals on the MLS. And a 4th little trick of the trade that most people don't actually understand. But number 1, you can be fast. That means that you need to constantly be watching the market if you want to get a deal using this strategy number 1. The tactic is to be fast. Be the first one to leave an offer. And you do that by constantly watching the market, making sure that all the new stuff that goes onto the market, you're there and you're ready to quickly give them an offer. Because what happens is effectively you've made the market smaller. Because most of the people who are shopping on the market are going to be a little bit slower. And if you put an offer in front of that seller's face today, they have a choice to make. Oh, I know that offer might be a little bit lower than the 220 that we listed the house for, but I don't want to wait and find out that nobody actually wants it at 220. So maybe I will take this offer that's a little bit lower. It's a smaller market. You've carved out a place of the market just for yourself. Now, there's going to be other people like you because a lot of people use that strategy. Number 2 is be better, like I should be with my handwriting. Better means that you give them a cash offer as opposed to a conventional mortgage or an FHA loan or a VA loan. Everybody knows that cash has a higher likelihood to close because there's less obstacles in the way to closing that deal. Obstacles meaning an appraisal where the bank says, oh, you know what, that house isn't worth what we thought it was, so we can't give you as much money. And that is an obstacle that ends some deals. Also, that appraiser might come in and say, hey, you got to fix a few things before they can buy it at that price. Another obstacle, more money that the seller has to spend. There's another obstacle that most people are very concerned about, which is the inspection resolution. When you go put an offer on that house, get it under contract, you'll most likely call an inspector to come in, inspect the house. They'll give you an inspection report. And based on that, most buyers will say, hey, because of this, and this, I want a lower price, or I want you to fix those things first. That's another obstacle. So by removing those obstacles, the appraisal contingency, by being a cash buyer, and the inspection resolution by saying, hey, we're not going to do any inspections, you have given a better offer. Now, I'm not saying that you should do those things. I think that if you're a newer investor, you probably really should get inspections done by a professional inspector because there might be things that you miss if you're not used to looking at those things. One of the things you could do, though, is go to the house initially with a contractor or somebody who understands the things that could be wrong with the house, and they can do the inspection on the spot. That way, when you leave the offer, you have left an offer knowing the problems that you're going to have to fix to get closer to having an accurate rehab price in the formula that I showed you earlier. Okay, being fast and being better, sometimes together. We talked about a few different things that you can do to be fast and to be better. Maybe you don't do all of those things. Maybe you do a select few of them, but you have increased the likelihood that somebody will accept your offer and you've made the market a little bit smaller. Number 3 This is how you almost create a separate market for yourself. And this is to be brave. And really, it's be brave and be skilled. What do I mean by that? I mean that there are some houses that sit on the market a little bit longer because there's a lot of work to do. It's not just your regular cosmetic flip or real estate investment that a lot of people want to do, the lipstick on a pig thing, where you put in new floors, maybe you do some upgrades to the kitchen, maybe some upgrades to the bathroom, you put in some new tile, make everything look pretty, and all of a sudden the house is worth more. You put on some fresh paint, some new hardware. That's a cosmetic flip. The ones that require work, like maybe roofing, new HVAC systems, tougher electrical and plumbing, maybe there's some structural issues. Well, you have really decreased the demand and the market size for that particular property because most people are scared of that type of work. So if you can teach yourself, if you can gain the confidence to take on projects like that, you will actually be able to find better deals on the market because, once again, there's a smaller market size, a smaller demand for those types of houses. Where do you learn that? Oh, maybe you should watch some more videos from me. Now, there is a fourth strategy to finding houses on quote unquote the market. Now, you got to realize how real estate agents get paid. And sorry, I'm mixing up strategy and tactic a lot. We're still on strategy 1, Ticketmaster, on the market. These are different tactics. Tactic number 4 is, well, you see, real estate agents, they get paid by a commission from the sales price of the house. If the house sells for $300,000, let's say, they generally get around 6%. Real estate agents will get around 6%. Half of that will be shared with the selling agent. They'll get 3%. And the buyer's agent will get the other 3%. And it's their brokerage that's getting the 3%. The agent themselves get paid a certain percentage of that. I know it's a lot, but the point is, if that house sells for $300,000, the buyer's agent that is helping you probably gets around $9,000 of that $300,000 sale. That's 3%. The issue is that if a for sale by owner gets listed on Zillow, well, that real estate agent doesn't get commission directly from that. They might go negotiate a deal where you pay them separately for it or whatever, but that causes friction and nobody wants friction. So what happens instead? Because water always flows in the path of the least resistance. What happens instead is they don't really show you those for sale by owners because there's so many other houses that are on the market that they'll easily get commission for. So really, they're not motivated to do that. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that water flows in the path of least resistance. And also, it's not on their normal searches. So they'd actually have to go out of their way to do it. I would say that's probably something you shouldn't expect from them. But it's something that is very important for you to understand because these can be some of the best deals. Because when somebody lists their house for sale by owner, one, they almost always list it too high, which actually deters a lot of people from calling them because they think, oh, these people are crazy. They're never going to get $250,000 for that $200,000 house. So they don't call them. Or they get a barrage of phone calls, but not by buyers. They get a barrage of phone calls by real estate agents who want to make them sign a listing agreement so they can list it on the MLS and then get their commission. Therefore, these for sale by owners get really worn out from taking all these stupid calls. And because people would rather not do the work, there might be some actual buyers that call them and, they just throw them verbal lowball offers like, hey, will you take 180 for that house that you listed for 250? And they're like, no. And then another one says, hey, could you take 178 for that house? No. Gosh, stop calling me, people. But those guys don't necessarily follow up. And sales really comes down to negotiation and follow up. Most people miss the follow-up part because that's the hard work. That's putting somebody in your CRM or on your list to where you call them in regular intervals to see if maybe they've changed their mind. They won't take an offer today, but maybe they would tomorrow. So what I suggest you do with these for sale by owners is that you actually, even if they are overpriced, if you're really out there looking, then go check out their house. It'll just give you more information about what stuff is selling for and such. Go out there, meet them, build a relationship, and then just follow up. Hey, is your house sold yet? Well, like I said, I'm still interested at this price if something changes. And you're not going to get every one of those, but you might get 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20. And I think that's worth it, especially when you're starting out. But anyway, moving to strategy 2, ticket scalpers. If you really want a deal on your concert tickets, what you do is you wait until the day of the concert and you go down to the Taylor Swift Arena and you look for people who have bought tickets and they're trying to sell them to anybody that goes down there. I'm not sure if those are legal anymore, but that's beside the point. Now, here's the thing that you got to understand about these ticket scalpers is you may get better deals from them, and the longer you wait, the better the deal is going to be, because once that concert starts, or at least once it gets pretty far in, well, the value of that ticket goes to absolute zero. And that's basically what happens with wholesalers. Now, you may have heard of these guys. What they do is they have a multitude of ways that they find deals. So they get that house under contract for, let's say, $175,000. Now, really, you want to learn how to find deals. They know all the ways to find the best deals. And I'm going to actually get into a few other methods outside of these 3 just at the end. So they get this deal for $175,000. They say, hey, Mr. Seller guy, I'll buy your house for $175,000 because of whatever strategies they have. They're able to get that under contract. So they have a contract to buy that house for $175,000. And then they come to you, a real estate investor or a house flipper, a cash buyer, and they say, hey, I have this house for you for $190,000. It's a great deal because if you bought it on the MLS, you'd have to buy it for $220,000. I got it for $190,000 for you. All right, but they don't actually sell you that house for $190,000. No, what happens is they sell their position in the contract. They have it for $175,000. They're telling you $190,000, you agree to that. So there's a $15,000 spread, as we call it. That is really an assignment fee. That is a finder's fee for these wholesalers. That's how they get paid for all the work they do to snuff out these deals, to bird dog these deals. So when you go to close on this property, you've actually taken their position in the contract. And when you go to the closing table, you're going to close with that seller, and there's going to be an extra line item on the closing docs that is a $15,000 assignment fee to Mr. Wholesaler. And a lot of people get sick when they see the amount that these guys make off the deals, but it is what it is. If you don't know how to find the deal, you got to pay somebody who does. And a lot of times it's better than buying on the MLS, but not always. Now, this is the important part. When I say that a ticket scalper, the value of those tickets goes to zero once the concert starts. Same thing for a wholesaler. See, they have a contract that has a closing date on it. And sure, maybe they can extend it, but let's just act like that is not an option for them. So the closing date is January 1st, let's say. When January 1st comes, then the value, their potential assignment fee, instead of being $15,000, goes to zero because they no longer have a contract. Therefore, it is important that they move that deal quickly. Now, an experienced wholesaler has a very large list of potential buyers that they send these properties out to. And being a wholesaler myself in the past, and actually having quite a big operation where we were doing multi-hundreds of deals, I know that there are really 3 levels of this list of buyers. First is true insiders. That's like if I wanted to buy one of those deals, or one of my business partners, or people that are really close to me. They get to see all of the deals that we got under contract first. Next is what I call the inner circle. These are other buyers that probably know better and you've done a lot of business with, and you know them to be great buyers. And what does a great buyer mean? It means that there's not going to be a lot of friction that's added to a deal, because these deals that are gotten off market direct with a seller are generally more fragile than a deal that's on the MLS, on the market. So there's not a bunch of inspection crap. They're not bringing a bunch of people through that house and making things really tough trying to renegotiate the deal. They're also cash buyers, and you know them to be strong closers. They're never going to leave you at the closing table and not show up, meaning they didn't have the ability to come through on what they said. Those are people that are in your inner circle. And then if you have a deal that you couldn't sell to the insiders or the inner circle, then you go to the bigger list. And maybe that's the ones that you see on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or in an email blast or wherever else you might see them, maybe Facebook groups. Those are the deals that the other ones didn't want in most cases with experienced wholesalers. And when things go out to the big list, sometimes I see these houses selling for more than you would have been able to get them off of the market itself. So you have to be careful here. So how do you find deals through wholesalers if that's the case? Well, what I suggest is that instead of trying to get with some of the bigger ones who obviously have a huge market, a huge list, you go out and recruit just like you would, let's say, recruit an employee. You would be out looking for people who are newer to wholesaling. Look for people who are putting fresh deals out on Facebook because they don't have an inner circle or insiders. They're not buying deals themselves. And look for the ones that are newer. And truly, you should get on every single list. So hang on, let me write this down for you. First, get on every single list. Every list from every wholesaler, and observe who are the ones that are getting a lot of deals and obviously have a big list that you're going to know they're polished, they're put together, they have branding and logos. And then there's the guy that, Jeff, let's say, he just got into wholesaling because he watched a bunch of YouTube videos, learned how to get a wholesale deal, bought some contracts from people, and he got himself a deal. And he's freaking because he knows he can't make any money off of it unless he's got a buyer. You want to find those guys. All right, so find a newer wholesaler. I just didn't want to write the whole thing because I have terrible handwriting. You find this newer wholesaler, and now you start working on being his inner circle or his insider. That's what you want to do. And you only need one, because you're not going to buy 10 deals your first year, most likely. I don't suggest that you do. I think that you should just focus on one for now. Get a great deal on one. So build a relationship with one wholesaler that you see out there trying to find deals. And look at your mail, because these guys are most likely sending you mail. Build a relationship with that person. As they grow, you grow. It's a great deal. And start with one, then two, so on and so forth. But what you've done is effectively, you've become a small market for that person. So if you can prove yourself to be a solid buyer, you'll get their best deals. As they grow, maybe they outgrow you, maybe not. I do want to emphasize on buying from wholesalers. I've been a wholesaler. I bought lots of deals from wholesalers. Be a good buyer. These deals are fragile. They truly are. These people are trying to make a living. I know some people have bad opinions of them. They're trying to make a living. They got a contract. They worked to get it. They spent a lot of money to get it. They did a lot of work to do it. They've built a lot of skills to be able to do that. They probably didn't just luck into a deal. Don't let them feel like you're going to blow up the deal. Go in there. Be very conscientious of the fragile nature of that deal and be a strong closer. Don't do it. Don't get it under contract unless you know you can close. Tip, if it's a good deal, you'll be able to close. People will give you the money. Now, number 3, direct to the source. Instead of buying through the wholesaler, the middleman, you go get the deal directly. This is the key. If you learn how to get a deal yourself, it changes everything for you. You will have a constant, measurable, controllable flow of great deals. And everybody thinks this is super complex. And gosh, it is not. I don't know what it is about marketers that they try to make their field seem so mystical. It is not. It's really simple. I figured it out. Now, maybe you're not going to be as great as they might be. Maybe they do things just a little bit better, but you don't got to pay a marketer if you figure out how to do it yourself. So even if you're only 80% as good as them, that's still way better because you're not paying somebody to go do the marketing for you. So what do you do to find deals directly to the source? It's really easy. First, you buy leads. You get a list. There's multiple places to do it. This list is not all-encompassing. It's just some of the bigger names. Property Radar, PropStream, Batch Lists, maybe Batch something, List Source. All you do is you go on there and you find a list. You actually put in what kind of list you want, what area, what zip code, what census tract. Do you want people who are tax delinquent? Do you want people who have owned the house for 4 years or longer? Do you want houses that are older than 30 years old? Or do you want houses that are newer than 30 years old? All of those things. Every metric you can think of is a possibility in these list builders. The best part is that most of them have pre-made lists for people like you and me, real estate investors. They know exactly what you want. These are lists with some pain in it, is what they might say. Tax delinquent, they haven't paid their taxes, they're probably having money issues, therefore they might be more inclined to sell their house. They just inherited the house from somebody and they don't really care about the house. They just want to get some money out of it. That's great. That's where you find deals because they don't care. You care. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. So you get lists. It's simple to do. You don't need to buy them from anybody. You can literally go to those websites yourself. You don't have to be anybody special to do them. Number 2, once you have this list, what do you do with them? You do one of 2 things to start. You either send mail to them or you call them. Because here's the thing about these lists you buy. It's going to have the site address. That's the house that you're potentially wanting to buy, their personal mailing address, their phone number, their email address, their name, and it'll also have people related to them and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, you can contact them. It's great. It's that simple. Give them a call. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. blah, blah, blah. I saw your house on 123 Main Street. I'd really love to buy it. I'm a cash buyer. Is that something that you'd be interested in? No? Oh, F me. Geez. Yeah, that'll happen too. Get used to it. It's okay. People, for whatever reason, get mad that you're asking to buy their house. Don't feel bad about it. It just is what it is. But don't be cringy over the phone. It's literally, hey, I saw your house on 123 Main Street. I'm a local guy. I'd love to give you a cash offer on it. Is that something you're interested in? No? Okay, no problem. There are advanced strategies, but this is good enough for now. Mail. Send a bunch of mail. Here's the thing. Calling is basically free. Once you have the list, you can call a bunch. But if you got some money, sending mail is way easier. You take that list, send mail to everybody on it. You can spend 50 cents per piece of mail to send out like yellow letters that say, hey, I want to give you a cash offer on your house. Or, I'm not sure what word that was. It was or up to is what I was thinking there. You can do like handwritten letters from a machine that actually hand writes letters with a pen. So that way it looks more real, like somebody wrote it to them. Those cost more like $1.50 per piece of mail. So if you're sending a list of 2,000 people, that might cost you $3,000. And of 2,000 people, you're probably not getting that many calls, but you'll get some. You might get a deal out of those 2,000 leads. You might get a couple deals out of it. So generally what I do is I try to send around 1,000, maybe 2,000 per week. So that way you have a general flow of it, but you don't need to start there. Maybe send 1,000 a month just to get a feel for it and feel what it is like to talk to these people on the phone, or cold call them, get used to talking to people like this. Once again, don't feel bad. Guys, you're not trying to screw anybody over. You're literally going to give them cash for their house. If they don't like it, it's on them if they tell you to F off. That's not nice. They shouldn't do that, but sometimes they do. Sorry. As promised, there are some other ways to get deals. Now, I didn't put this on my list because they're not really strategies that I use. These 3 strategies I use on a regular basis. The ones that I'm going to give you, I know people use them and I know that they're effective. I just don't really do them, but I want you to have a complete-ish list. So tax sales, that's a place where a lot of people buy. There's auctions, like on the courthouse steps, there's auctions. I've actually been down to buy houses like that. It's a different feel. It's pretty cool. There's foreclosures and pre-foreclosures if you want to get into that game. Buying bank-owned properties. I know people do that a lot. Here are some lower blows that I know are effective for people, and they might work for you. I'm not saying that anything is wrong with any of this. But that is calling listings that have expired, generally with a real estate agent. If a house has been listed for 6 months, usually their contracts are for 6 months. So if it's been longer than 6 months, the listing will expire. Sometimes they'll renew with the real estate agent. A lot of times they don't because it took them 6 months and they didn't sell the house. Those people wanted to sell at some point. Maybe they'd want to sell to you. And this is the one that will probably rub people the wrong way, is all those emails and texts that you're getting from houses that wholesalers have. Well, I've heard from bigger wholesalers that they only close 60% of the deals they get under contract. That means 40% just go away. So you could, I know people who do this, they don't make a lot of friends, but they collect all of the different wholesalers lists, and just after a couple months, they give that person a call to see if they sold their house. That's simple. And you don't even have to call them to find out if they sold their house or not. Just look to see if it transferred title in the last couple months. If it didn't, they obviously didn't sell it, or most likely didn't sell it. Give them a call. Maybe they'd want to sell to you. Once again, you're probably not going to make any friends doing that way. That person would not sell you any deals. And also, usually the real estate investor circles are pretty small in towns, and you'll get a bad rap for yourself. So you probably won't buy any deals from any wholesalers. But it's my job to let you know the different ways you can get deals. Now, this is the last thing that I want to say to you, is that control is within your grasp. You see, I showed you that equation at the beginning. Sales price minus acquisition price plus renovation cost plus other costs equals your profit. When I was just starting out, I thought the way to control deals was to understand construction, because I thought I could get the prices for construction down. And that's why I became a contractor, learned all that stuff. That's why I flipped houses myself with my own hands. But here's what I've learned, is construction has a price. And yeah, you can control some of the things that kind of spiral out of control. But at the end of the day, construction costs what construction costs. And I know house flippers who have never done construction in their lives and are really good at controlling their costs. But once again, it just costs money to do the renovation. You can be smarter about the renovation you do. I'm all for that. Here's the one thing that I found out that I always had control over, which is the acquisition price. I get to say yes or no to a deal. I get to control how good that deal is on the front end and determine whether I'm going to buy it or not. And guys, I know I say this all the time, but house flipping, which leads to real estate investing, which leads to holding long-term rental property, is the way to wealth. It is the way to controlling your financial future, to gaining financial freedom, to being able to leave a job, to be able to create your own job, which isn't really a job. It's kind of like work and life meshed together, because you're doing something for yourself, for your family, for your future. And there's nothing better than that. And the number one way to be able to be successful in that game is to be able to get good deals on the front end. That does not mean screwing people over to get a deal, because when you cut out all the middlemen, use strategy number 3, direct to the source, well, they don't have to pay any of those other people either. So them discounting the price for you might put the same money in their pocket. They don't have to go through all the crap, through all the headaches. So that feels good for them. You get a great deal. Therefore, you set yourself up with a head start. Now you have control over all those things. And that's what I want for you. Real estate changed my life. I hope it changes yours as well. Now, I know we talked about finding deals, which means you have to talk to people directly. And that can be terrifying. And it certainly is, because most people, when they think of sales, which is what we're talking about, they think of the dirty car salesperson that is just cringy to listen to. That's not sales, guys. That is terrible sales. What real sales is crafting deals. And you craft deals by understanding both sides of the deal and putting something together that works for everybody. And I made a whole video about it. I made a whole video about how to use the methods of an FBI hostage negotiator to help you get better deals on houses on the front end when you're talking directly to sellers. I linked it right here. I hope you go watch it. Thanks, guys.